Hi everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today we're going to finish up, I hope, our CompAir mobile compressor. Right now we're just cycling the fuel through it a couple of times to make sure we've got the tank all flushed out. I'm just running it through this kind of universal filter. It's one that I can see in, and there's a bit of junk piling up in there, but nothing too crazy. It did kind of stop flowing one time, and I took the valve out, and there was an old blob of Teflon tape stuck in the valve. I've got that out of there, and it's flowing. It's flowing quite well now. So I think this is probably the last time we're going to do it. And then once all this stuff has gone through, I've got a can of fresh diesel fuel we're going to put in it, and that's what we'll be using to get the thing up and running again. I'm also going to swap out this valve once the tank is empty, because it looked like, I cleaned it all up now, but it looked like it might have been weeping fuel around the shaft. So we'll just swap that out. I've got lots of them. While we wait on that fuel to run through, we're going to get our air cleaner, air intake all sorted out. There's a can, the air filter can hangs off this bracket up here, and we'll put a new filter in it. Okay, so I replaced the valve and I've made up a new line. So our fuel system now is completely closed. I'm going to go ahead, fill up the tank with fresh diesel fuel. That's as far as we're going to go for now. I got a couple other things to deal with, and then when we're ready to try and fire it up, that's when I'll open the fuel valve, get it bled, and we'll go from there. Now I got to have a go at the exhaust system. Originally the exhaust went underneath it and hung off that bracket there. Somewhere along the line, somebody has made it into an upright exhaust with the muffler sitting on it here. Problem is, the engine is on rubber mounts and moving around, and they had the end of the exhaust bolted to this bracket with a clamp. And what that's done, there's a couple of cracks in the top of the manifold now, and we don't want that to get any worse. So we're going to try and find a way to have the muffler up here kind of floating. We'll come up with something. But right now what I notice, you can see there that the exhaust pipe is touching the top sheet metal here. And I didn't notice that before I took it apart. But what else I noticed is this thing here over time, that little half moon there is the original relief that they cut in this for this airline. But you can see here that over time, it started coming up and eating away into the metal here. That's pretty weird, isn't it? What I think has happened is these front motor mounts have settled more than the rear ones, because there's a heck of a lot more weight on this. So the engine has kind of pivoted on the rear mounts there, which if you imagine it, it goes like that. That would explain that pipe coming forward in its hole and eating away at the top. It would also explain this thing rising up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these bolts out of here and see if we could put a packer underneath this or something. There must be something we can do about it. We can see here the isolators have just been absolutely destroyed by oil. It's melted the rubber all out of them. So I am going to look and see if I could find some of these, and we'll change all four of them. I gave up trying to find these. I found some that were close, but this dimension was off, that dimension was off, the holes were too far apart, blah, 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 blah. So I looked around in my junk and found that the hole in this bracket, a Chrysler leaf spring bushing, which I have a couple of kicking around here, just drives right into it. So I just have to I have to measure off the rear motor mounts and get the installed height correct. Once I've got the installed height correct, we'll just tack it in with the welder, and that's it. It should work. Who remembers when we were kids watching In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy? They're doing a marathon today on one of the local channels, and this episode I think is Stuntmen or Daredevils or something. I liked it because they had a bunch of hell drivers in step-side Dodge trucks. Oh, there you are. It looks like they grew there. My only worry is that over time the outer sleeve will slide down the rubber. But I think it'll be okay for quite a while. We'll just keep an eye on it. But at least now you can see that's away from the edge of the hole. That's not touching anymore. All good. I wish I'd have noticed that before, but it doesn't matter. It's fixed now. Now we could do what we set out to do and get the muffler on. All right, I'll show you what I did. I found this little rubber stud mount, and that's on there. So now you can see our exhaust has got just a little jiggle. I put a rain cap on it, and that's our exhaust system all done. The thermostat is out. The cooling system is filled with straight water with the cooling system flush, chemical stuff, whatever it is. I bought a Canadian Tire in it. So now it says take it outside and run it for half an hour. So we're going to do that once we get it started, of course. All right. So what we're going to do is open the fuel. All right. And I heard we're going to open our bleeder screw here. And then what we have to do is turn on the ignition and hold in our override. And we should start seeing fuel come out of here. There it is. Okay. It took a while because it has to fill up that big fuel filter and then all these lines. But there we go. So now what we have to continue holding that in and see if she'll start. Oh, and we have to have the air valve open so we're not trying to compress air while we're turning it over. Let's see what happens. She's turning. Once it gets going, it'll go. Okay, now we're going to give it a little glow plug. And we'll try cranking it again. Well, she tried. It was making oil pressure at least. I saw the oil pressure gauge at 25. I went through this the last time. When it gets full of air, it's a bugger to get going. I've got the drain valve open on the bottom of the tank, but obviously it's not enough of a leak to let the governor run the thing at full speed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the twist lock off and open that valve, and that should get her going. There she goes. It thinks it's got a jackhammer on it now. So we'll let it run for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, get that cleaner through the cooling system, then we'll make our next move. Now if we close this valve, she should go back down to idle. Look at that, perfect. It's working perfectly. And then the pressure will start coming up. See there, 100, that's about what it makes. We open this up and the engine will speed back up. And away she goes. That's coming up. That's good. That's not good. We'll have to put a spring in that. Okay, that should be good for now. I'm going to shut it down. We'll get the coolant out of it, or the water, and then we need to flush it out with clean water. So to shut it off the key, and that's it. She's off. So now we'll let the air out of it. All right, now we could dump that water out of it. I put the thermostat back in. We pulled the bottom hose off and put a spring in it that I salvaged from an old rat hose I had in the shed. That should stop that from collapsing anymore. Although I'm wondering if now that it's got a thermostat in it at full speed, it may not collapse anymore. But better safe than sorry. It's got a spring in it. Now we can go ahead and mix up some coolant. 50-50, we're using the heavy-duty diesel coolant from Canadian Tire. And we'll get the rad filled up. There's our cooling system all full. I've left it for a minute to make sure it wasn't going to bleed down, but it does have a vent hole in the thermostat housing and I to bypass the thermostat, and I made sure that was clear. So it, yeah, we're good. We'll close that up and she's ready to go. And while I was at it, I went around, I put the torque wrench on the lug bolts. I torqued them to 80. I could probably go up to 90, but I don't know that, you know, the threads in the hubs. We'll leave it at this for a bit. And if I grow a pair later, I might try to take them up to 90. But for now, that's good. And I adjusted the tire pressure in the tires. They're load range C, I think. So maximum, anyway, the maximum pressure on the sidewall is maximum load at 50 psi. So yeah, load range C. So they're in around 45 now. That's fine. They're not really loaded to the maximum, so that'll be good for them. I've been trying to figure out kind of somewhere that one of the original tires that I took off, I could kind of mount it on here as a spare, you know. But we may have to just in the end kind of throw that in the back of the truck or something when we're out. And I just saw fuel drip from here. We're going to have to make sure that's tight. Next, what I want to do is get this old milk crate mounted down in there like that, so that I could carry around stuff, you know, an air hose or whatever we figure we need to carry around in this thing. We need to be able to carry it. Here's the last couple of little details before we give it kind of a practical test outside. I got a battery disconnect for it, and I went with a toggle style. Number one, we've got the room for it, rather than the ones with the little thumb screw that I normally use. I think this will be better in this application. You may have big gloves on or something when you're trying to operate it. So that's why we went with that. And we have to test out the block heater and see if that works. So all we're going to do is plug it in and then listen. We'll take the rad cap off and listen, and we should kind of hear, you know, kind of a little gurgling sound, or maybe even see a couple of bubbles. It's really faint. You may not be able to hear it on this recording, but I could definitely hear it hissing and bubbling away. So that's good. Our block heater is working. Now we can get this thing outside. We'll get it fired up and I'll run my big air body grinder with it or something and put it through its paces. Alrighty, I'm going to see now about getting this thing cranked up, and we're going to plug our big body grinder into it and see how it likes that. Oh, I can still smell the paint. I love the smell of fresh paint. Alright, let's see if we can remember how to do this. Open the fuel. Close the battery. Open that. Okay, I just heard fuel running. Now, oh, I'm going to need the tripod because I have to hold that button while I turn the key, remember? And what else I remember, it's a little rough on starting because probably old age. So anyway, we're going to try it. Okay, so we've got the, we're hitting the glow plugs. All right, let's see what happens. Oh, she almost went. Well, we'll try again. Blow it some more. And then once the oil pressure comes up, we can let go of this button. You don't like starting when she's cold. Give it a second and it should get rolling. There it goes. Okay, we're good. Let it go for a second, and then if I close that big valve, it should come down to idle. Okay. Now we're going to plug in this air hose and try the body grinder. Well, if anything, we're making a bunch of noise. It doesn't even break a sweat. I can run this grinder all day. Right at 100 psi. That's awesome. That's exactly what we want it to do. Now, when we're done, like the compressor inside, you just open the valve. and that'll drain any water out of it that's in there. Wow, this thing is going to do a lot of work around here. I'm very, very happy with that test. Very happy. It does run a little fat. You can see it made a bit of a mess of our new paint there, but we'll get that cleaned up, and maybe I'll just add a little short piece of pipe to this so that the exhaust comes up above these doors. Easy enough to do. And it says run it with the doors open, so I just got this bungee cord. They've obviously had one before because these holes were already there. The bungee cord, if you're out working on a windy day or something, that'll help keep the doors open. All right, got it hooked to the truck. Make sure the lights work. That all seems to be good. So now we'll just take it for a little spin around the block and make sure it tows okay. And then that's it. We could call it done and put it in service. Oh, after I fix this, I found this is too short, the wiring harness. It needs to be like a foot longer. So I found a little extension piece in the garage, but I will make this guy longer. What happened was when I did the wiring, I found an old, like a complete trailer harness kit, and I started at the back and worked my way forward with it, and that's how much I had left. So that's it. So at the end of the day, my pre-made harness just wasn't long enough. No worries. That looks snazzy, eh? My auction truck and my auction compressor. I love the auction. Well, I guess I'll wrap it up for that one then. I got the wiring fixed up. I found that the screw on the jack was very tight, so I got that lubed up. That works good now. The last thing I have to do is put that extension pipe on the muffler, like I said I was going to, but I don't need to do that right this second. It's fine how it is. It just makes a little mess of the door. No worries at all. That all worked out pretty well in the end. I didn't really know what to expect when I bought this thing because it was as is where is, you know. And well, what do you know? We've actually got a really nice piece of equipment that functions as it should, and it's going to get a lot of use around here. Now I have to see what I've got for sandblasting equipment, because this thing is going to be great for sandblasting stuff, you know, but I've just got a little tiny 5-pound pressure pot sandblaster, and I think this thing is capable of running a lot more serious equipment than that. Anyway, that's for another video, but this is it for this video. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the Claremont Classic Garage. Hope you'll come back and see us again. And until then, I'm Kevin saying so long for now.